lots of attacks on Bitcoin wallets or crypto wallets. Is fraud cyber attack use cases or applications for Gen AI? End goal is money. So a fraudster or a cyber attacker or an organized crime wouldn't really care. We have seen increased level of phishing attacks. Even the simplest kind of attacks can impact your business. Unfortunately, they run Google ads targeted to your geographical area.
Like, what are some of the most notorious cyber incidents in the recent years and what made them so impactful?
Explore dark web as a marketplace, understanding how threats are evolving.
Enhances the overall security posture of the organization.
IT skill set, deep understanding of programming. Hackers used to need a high IT skill set to execute full attacks.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to Learn Launch with Raviti Jamurabana, episode 14. Today we are thrilled to have a very special guest with us. Mahmoud is a senior cybersecurity strategist with Canadian federal government, bringing over 20 years of experience in security and computer networking to the table. His extensive expertise has been a pivotal in shaping securing national strategies against cyber threats, and we are excited to dive into his wealth of knowledge and hear your insights. Welcome to the podcast, Mahmoud. It's great having you here.
Same here. Thank you for inviting me. Truly appreciate it.
How did everything start in Mahmoud? What made you select cybersecurity?
Very interesting question. I would say it was maybe grade 7, 8 school, where it's going to be a little bit interesting here. So where I had computer labs, the teacher was actually doing the grades as well. And I found the master database for all grades. It was password 1. As funny as that. Again, I was grade 7, so this was interesting. I ran and quote unquote, what we call now disclosed it. It's like, hey, we have a problem here. And the teacher's like, no, it's not a problem. Like, it's my passwords. Like, okay, that's interesting. People are using that passwords kind of thing. And it evolved from there. So I studied telecommunications for undergrad. My graduation project was mainly on what at that time was the cutting edge technology for cellular communication, 3G. And I specialized in the encryption for 3G. Then moved forward, my master's, PhD. So went into different kind of venues, moved a little bit more into wireless networks, and came back to cybersecurity. Has been between networking and cybersecurity for the last 20 years.
Thanks for sharing that, Mahmoud. And I meet new people, and whenever I say I'm from cybersecurity, the first thing that they say is, do you know hacking? So people usually think that, okay, cybersecurity is nothing but hacking. So just wanted to ask you, what is cybersecurity and what are different types of cyber attacks?
So cybersecurity is let's go back a little bit in time where computers started. The whole idea about or networking actually started in the late 60s. Was all about how can we connect different sites or different computers with links, but those links has to be reliable in total. So links between different sites could be unreliable, could go down, could be slow, and so on. But how can we collectively create a network that's actually reliable? So the idea of if you have 7, 8 sites and you're creating links between some of them to the other, 2 links between each, like between different sites. Okay, if one goes down, the other one's still there. But the idea, if those are kind of unreliable links, how can you create the reliable network out of that? So all networking was started all about routing traffic from end to end in a reliable way. So reliability was the key part, the availability of the network and availability of bandwidth to send this volume of data. Move forward, like 10, 15 years forward, the whole idea of, okay, we're sending data on different networks or different links that we don't know who owns those links, how they're monitored, who has access to them. Started the idea of confidentiality. So availability, we managed like the networking kind of community to create a reliable network from lots of unreliable links, but we did not actually anticipate the problem of, so what happens when those packets are moving through some networks that you don't control or controlled by your quote unquote the opposite side. And that's exactly where the whole idea of confidentiality, integrity of the network started. Years before that, confidentiality, like if you're saving a file and trying to encrypt it, encryption was a very strong field in the telecommunication kind of industry. But still on the networking side, it was still a kind of a brand new concept. So mid 80s, early 90s, it was all about how can we move the data through lots of networks, lots of links in a secure way. got pushed really hard by the .com kind of boom when
Mhm.
e-commerce came, and the idea of you're asking me to put my credit card online on a website that doesn't have any kind of encryption. No, I don't want to. I don't want to go there. In parallel, all the military applications, all the defense applications were happening in parallel as well. So I think there were two drivers. One is the military applications. The other one was e-commerce, and how can we enable e-commerce across different platforms.
Got it. Thanks for sharing that, Mahmoud. And like, what are the like different attacks which people can use in those, like websites or maybe applications that you think?
So we have been seeing generations of web attacks,
Mhm.
starting from DDoS, which is basically trying to knock down a website or deem a service as unusable, then
Mhm.
moving to a more sophisticated attacks up until we reach the stage of ransomware that we have been, or the nightmare of ransomware we have been living in since mid, like I would say 15 to 2015, 2017, where the whole ecosystem moved away for the sake of causing harm, like DDoS, for example,
Mhm.
into actually running a business. When you see the ransomware, you have to see it more or less in the context of running a business. At the end of the day, some organized crime is looking for a payment out of that attack. If we start treating threat actors from the angle of businessmen trying to run a business, so the ultimate goal is to get money out of an organization, get an organization to pay. This could be by deeming their production environment unusable by encrypting all the data on the production platform, or even deeming it as unrecoverable because when you encrypt your backups as well. Or the new generation of double extortion, which is I'm going to deem your environment unavailable, as well as I'm going to copy this data and send it out and extort, like start extorting your either directly your organization or your clients if you don't pay. So long story short, the idea comes from organized crime. How can you force an organization to pay? I've been
Yeah.
seeing threats of DDoSing coming back. Threats, not the DDoSing itself, it's the threats of DDoSing. If you don't pay, we
Mhm.
will DDoS your organization. So we're seeing more and more organized crime coming into the scene. Also, we're seeing nation state actors where they have their very targeted attacks,
Mhm.
especially either against defense or defense contractors or specific banks, for example. So we're seeing both flavors, but for the recent, I would say 4 or 5 years, we've been seeing increase in ransomware and flavors of ransomware.
Yeah, true. I agree. As you said, like, even financial services have been the prime targets, has it's a direct financial gain to the hackers can achieve. And even, there are a lot of scams related to this. Whenever the hackers get the information, let's say email ID or phone number, and they pretend to be from the bank and they
Mhm.
manipulate, the user that we are calling from the bank. And they'll be also saying the information like your name is so and so, your number and address, because already those information was leaked. And they'll be using some social engineering techniques or psychology techniques, and they'll fall for it and they'll pay the amount. The similar situations occurred to one of my friend like 2 weeks ago.
Exactly. Exactly. So you touched a very interesting point that when you talk to senior security specialists as well as CISOs, that debate starts and never ends. Is fraud cyber attack? Or
Mhm.
is it a flavor of cyber attacks, or is it just a digital fraud? So you have two kinds of school of thinking. One is considering, well, everything happening digitally is cyber attack. So fraud counts as cyber attacks when it comes to collection of personal data, collection of and using it for credit card applications, using it for phishing, using it for pushing clients to give you their bank username and password, not to go and log into your, like, not for confidentiality, but just for taking this money out. And so it's a borderline. Is fraud really cyber attacks or not? In my opinion, that's more of an academic kind of discussion. The end goal is money. So a fraudster or a cyber attacker or an organized crime wouldn't really care about that kind of terminology. At the end of
Okay.
the day, they're running after the money.
Yeah, true.
Even phishing. So we have seen increased level of phishing attacks,
Mhm.
starting from the old Nigerian prince, where it was written in poorly kind of language, up until we're seeing a very, very kind of sophisticated, more convincing attacks, like phishing attacks, to the point that we're now at the business email compromise, where you're actually getting an email from a business that you have been dealing with, and it's legit email coming from a mailbox that he for a person that you dealt with for a long time, that's either pushing you for clicking on a link or asking you actually directly wire transferring money.
I do agree. And even, coming to phone numbers, like I told you the story, right? Like one of my friend. So they got a call from, bank, and my friend verified it, like whenever he go to online, he has checked, okay, what is the phone number of this particular customer care, and it was same. So they have spoofed the number, and my friend believed that, okay, this is real authentic numbers. That's where the conversation gone. So I think like if people who are into those scams, first thing is they have to just reject the call. If they are asking any personal information, just reject the call and call again. That will redirect to the authentic bank number.
Agree. So this is a very good point. I seen a twist on this recently where someone will call you. So instead of spoofing a bank number, they just call you from 1-800 number,
Mhm.
and you say, "No, thank you. I'm just gonna Google the name of the bank or like your bank or organization that you're pretending that you're calling from, and I'll call you back." Unfortunately, they run Google Ads
Oh,
targeted to your geographical area. So when you look for this specific, like Bank of America or whatever brand you're looking for or organization XYZ, they actually the first thing that shows up is an ad targeted for you or in this specific physical location or specific demographics. So, and people don't really see the difference between how should I say, like a sponsored ad versus an actual link. So lots of people actually clicking on those ones.
yeah.
We're seeing more and more attacks on IT admins or developers where they, again, the exact same technique. They start targeting specific organization by putting ads for SSH login client, for example, or password manager. But when you're downloading that password manager or that library or that software, it's coming from a sponsored link, not from the actual link.
Basically, you are downloading the malware. So I think you have to, because like even I have read it. So people are using these ads to supply the malwares into the systems. So whenever they search, let's say let's say word A, there will be multiple things starting. There will be sponsored or an ad. So
Exactly.
you have to not click that. So usually go down. There will be actual link. So click that. So maybe I think there should be an awareness related to this. And even scammers are using deepfakes in the glow time that Apple has released. I've seen a video where Tim Cook was deepfaked and he was asking for a Bitcoin. If you send me a Bitcoin, I'll be doubling it and giving it to you. It was the same scenario like Twitter, like in 2020, there was Twitter hacked like VIP accounts, and they were asking Bitcoins. I think a lot of people have lost money there as well.
Unfortunately, that's, and again, when you think about those attacks, they may seem simple. They may seem, as a professional, maybe as a security professional, may seem like, yeah, I don't think someone will fail for this easily.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, those are not target attacks. Those are, it's like someone casting a net and
Mhm.
figuring out what comes out. So they don't care about how many. They don't care about who actually they're catching. It's just how many did we catch. So it's those techniques are usually easy to implement, easy to implement at scale. At
Mhm.
the same time, they're not sophisticated and they're not targeting specific kind of account. So I've been seeing lots and lots of attacks on Bitcoin wallets or crypto wallets where people put actually their cryptocurrency in those wallets and protect them with an SMS based multi-factor authentication can be a suspect for account takeover from
Right.
telecom. So unfortunately, people sometimes fall for that. I seen lots of attacks, especially on cryptocurrency for using that technique, number porting mainly.
Yeah, and even I think, do we need to use like YubiKey? Because even I think SMS and phone number people can get it, I guess. Because I think I've heard a news where it can be sold in dark web and so on. So do you think there should be an extra protection for our devices?
So it depends on the risk factor. It depends
Okay.
on, and unfortunately, organization again. This is the dilemma that many organizations have.
Mhm.
Either it's between service and security. So you cannot force everyone to buy a YubiKey. That's a $50-$60 or hardware
Mhm.
based tokens, but you can enable different options and take a decision for very specific accounts that you cannot use weak multi-factor. For example, AWS forced system admins or cloud like account admins to deviate from or cannot use SMS based multi-factor authentication, for example. When you look at banks, for example, it's a little bit difficult because you have a wide kind of user base, and you have to accommodate those kind of different options. So I think giving options to end users would be the way to go.
Thanks for sharing that, Mahmoud. And according to you, like what are some of the most notorious cyber incidents in the recent years, and what made them so impactful?
Interesting. So I would start by Equifax
Mhm.
back in 2017, because Equifax was an interesting one. And this is where cyber enables fraud or cyber breaches enable fraud. Equifax controls massive amount of personal information, including like first name, last name, date of birth, social insurance number, social security number in the US, and so on, as well as lots of financial information about people living in North America. So, long story short, it's an interesting target for fraudsters. It's all about taking this information and actually running with it for fraud purposes. Desjardins was another kind of flavor of that, but that was an insider threat. That was a
Mm.
slightly different, but it's the same idea. Large amount of personal information made it out of the bank and fueled lots of fraud kind of schemes moving forward.
Yeah,
It's mainly the idea of personal information being available in the dark on the dark.
and even I think some of the vulnerabilities like SolarWinds and Log4j vulnerabilities are also like play an important role, right? It's again.
That was the second one I'm going to use exactly. So solar wind was an interesting one because it's a evolving category of risks, which is
Mhm.
mainly third party risk, where you can put all the defenses you want in an
Mhm.
organization, all the due diligence, all the firewalls operations and security operations kind of monitoring, but you
Mhm.
still have either part of your data going out of the organization or you have software from other organizations on your infrastructure. So SolarWind was an interesting one where you can hit one service provider, and that service provider enabled access to 3,000 other organizations. The sophistication of that attack was beyond what was normal at that time. So it took a lot of time for preparation, a lot
Mhm.
of time for execution, and it was a true example of, or like a true example of how serious third-party risks can be, either
Yeah.
by sending your data out or receiving or having software of third-party on your infrastructure.
Yes, yeah. This has impacted a lot, I guess, back then.
Exactly, exactly. The third one, I would say Colonial Pipeline, which is
Mm.
an interesting one where we have always have been thinking about OT or operational technology as the source of problems for the
Mhm.
IT side. Okay,
Mhm.
always thought about someone can hack into a gas sensor or a power meter and go through the network all the way to your IT systems. This is similar to the target, like the mindset coming from the target attack in 2013,
Mhm.
where an HVAC system was used as an entry point to payment systems, and then credit card processing through the Christmas shopping season was compromised for millions of people. That has been always the mindset. OT is going to be used to attack IT.
Mhm.
Colonial Pipeline was the complete reverse, where the IT network was used to attack the OT network.
So it's reverse.
Exactly. But mainly, even the IT network itself, by going through a VPN access and moving across the organization, still on the IT side, damage was already done. You didn't even have to pivot to the OT side. When the organization, again, the threat modeling for most organizations working in OT or the IoT space comes from the IoT space or OT space.
Mhm.
But this one's interesting. When you stop the accounting system, which is basically who are we selling to and who are we buying from and who are we paying and who are we in debt for, like when you stop the accounting system, whole
Mhm.
operation cannot move forward. You cannot revert back to pen and paper. So you had
True.
a full pipeline stopped, because not even because of an attack on the OT system, but an attack on the accounting system on the IT side. So that, again, this explains the idea of the need for holistic approach to the problem. You cannot piecemeal it. You cannot solve cybersecurity by looking at specific angles and trying to solve it or trying to patch it. The challenges that we're seeing in the cybersecurity field, especially for CISOs, comes from the idea of being able to look at the problem in a holistic way, being able to adapt through the process. So understanding where we are, understanding how threats are evolving, and creating a plan to close those risks before they materialize,
I,
not in a reactive way. Like
yeah.
after something happens, you run around and try to implement new technology. At that time, that technology unfortunately wouldn't save you in the next 3-4 years moving forward.
True, I agree. And even I think the threat actors are using these vulnerabilities as an initial breach entry point. So I think, do you think that the vulnerability management is important, and why do you think so?
That's an interesting one. So vulnerability management is one of the very tricky discussions when you have it with IT teams.
Mhm.
So you get two sides of the equation. You get the side of, oh, you need to patch immediately, regardless of how bad the vulnerability is. And you get the side of IT, like, first of all, I cannot patch everything on time, and I cannot sacrifice availability because I need to test that patch. But long story short, we have to take vulnerabilities into kind of context. Vulnerability by itself does not mean the system will be breached, okay,
Mhm.
or going to be imminently breached. Vulnerability is one part of the equation.
Mhm.
The second part is, which system is it on? What's the asset that's actually going to be impacted? The third one is, what's the threat? How exactly can this happen? So a CVE that requires, or a vulnerability that requires physical access to your data center, even if, like, yes, if someone makes it into your data center, that's a problem. But it should be dealt with lower priority than something like Log4j, where it's completely open to the world. Anyone with an extremely low skill set can do it, or struts that
Yeah.
happened back in 2017 or Heartbleed in 2014. Those ones comes every 3-4 years, and they're extremely damaging because usually you don't have it's very low kind of skill set to exploit, very high
Yeah.
impact, and open to the world. So vulnerability management, I would say, is one of the most important components of any cybersecurity program. You need to put it into context, and you need to be able to prioritize those vulnerabilities and those patching based on the risk.
And enhances the overall security posture of the organization.
Exactly. So when you think about it from an attacker point of view, what would an attacker do actually? They try to do a couple of techniques, but most of them are start from scanning your environment, understanding your exposure. So
Mhm.
first point of protection should be attack surface management. Or actually, let me take it one step further. Knowing what do you have exposed to the internet. That's the starting point. So knowing which servers are exposed to the internet. What's your IP range? What are the domains that you own? Do you have some technical debt, some old domains that, yes, you registered years ago, but you're not using anymore?
Mhm.
What are you doing with those domains? Do you know all your IP range? Most companies, most organizations know their data centers. They know all, like, they have very rigorous kind of process when it comes to understanding their digital asset exposure or IT asset exposure. But very few organizations, or some organizations, don't have control over their OT systems. So you find an alarm system, you have a power generator, safety sensor, and so on. Those things usually are exposed to the internet without any protection. At the same time, they're connected to the internet network, and that's the perfect bridge. So understanding your exposure, that's the starting point. The second part would be, once someone makes it into the network, what's the first thing they're going to do? If you try to find credentials, password one, again, password 123, or even try to do some reconnaissance on users and find out original, previously leaked passwords and try to use them. Once you find a regular user, you need to upgrade your
Yeah. Latchy moment.
exactly. You need to upgrade your access to admin level. That's where vulnerabilities are used. So this is in a nutshell. You need to understand your exposure. You need to manage that exposure. Second part is you need to control your credentials, because the worst case scenario is someone logging in like a regular user. And the third part is you need to manage vulnerabilities, because once you have someone on the network, they're going to abuse every single known vulnerability. It's even worse when they try to abuse vulnerabilities that you don't know about. And this one, it comes to target attacks, or what we call zero day.
Even coming to vulnerability management, for example, a person who wants to enter into vulnerability management, what skills are required for him to survive in that vulnerability management team?
Curiosity. Curiosity is number one. To the like, so first time I got in contact with pen testers and
Mhm.
VA analysts, it wasn't one of the conferences, and like really early back in 2005-6. I didn't get the idea of lock picking. Like, why would you test people for that? The idea is you have that curiosity and that persistence to find the 1%. Because
Mhm.
most systems are tested before going to production. Most tests will find the obvious problems. Most automated scans will show you the things that everyone can see. Problem is usually things that people don't see or don't know about. So you need someone who has the patience, IT skill set, deep understanding of programming, deep understanding of systems, more and more patience and curiosity to find problems.
Yeah, true. I agree. Even back then, when I was in the university, I had a chance to go into one of the bus tours. So there, I met few people like professionals like VPs and managers. So they were showcasing about the product, and they were saying that okay, this is how securely we have built it. But I don't know what happened to me. I was saying, how can you say your product is secure? I can attack you in this way, and they gave me an testing opportunity. So I agree totally that curiosity is one of the important things that you need to have, through which you can also build connections, right? Through which you can later on, if you're searching for the job, you can connect with the same guy. Because recently when I went to one of the conference collision event, I don't have a ticket because it was around like something 2000 something. In
Mhm.
the last minute, like one of my connections told that he's going to that event, and he sponsored me that ticket.
Love it.
So
Love it.
like you will be building connections, and that's how you have to always show your curiosity, what you know, because if you don't show it, people don't understand. Like you are not adding a tag that you know certain skills, but you have to prove to them. So I totally agree what you said. Coming to illegal activities or operations like communicating and distributing malwares or negotiating with the ransoms, people use dark web. So why would they use dark web instead of like normal internet? So is there any specific reason for that?
Okay. So dark web is just one means of communication. Dark web gives bad actors the ability to be anonymous on the internet. It's hard to trace people on dark web. It takes very specialized skill set. So long story short, it's one means of communication. But when you think about dark web, it's not really about the communication means, or it's not about the actual technology. It's about the community around it. So the forums, the marketplaces. 10 years ago, I went through exploration of dark web and wrote a paper actually on different crimeware marketplaces and how are the dynamics between the sellers and buyers. And at that time, this was research joint with business school, and the idea was let's actually explore dark web as a marketplace from the market, or as a platform, from the idea of markets in the economic terms. So remove, like, let's forget all about malwares and ransomwares and all of this. At the end of the day, most dark web forums are what they call two-sided platforms, where you have a buyer and a seller, and a platform that's helping both. Think about it as Amazon or eBay. eBay doesn't sell anything; it just matches a buyer with a seller. So most of the time, this is what the dark web is. It's building communities of buyers and sellers. Those sellers can sell different things, including credentials, which is someone found usernames and password for an organization. That person doesn't know how to use it, doesn't want even to use it. They just sell it. The second part would be services. Someone writing a script, someone writing a malware, someone writing a remote access tool, and so on. And you find those are on the cyber side, developers. Then on someone developing a 0-day kind of vulnerability, taking it to exploitation kit, that's on the cyber side. On the fraud side also has the same part, which is someone can create identities, someone can pull personal information for fraud, someone can actually clear money out of a bank. That's on the seller side. On the buyer side, you get people who have very specialized skill set and looking for a specific tool that they're going and buying that specific tool to execute. Or you get people who have no idea how computers work, but they have the business mindset, which is let's collect tools and assemble a team of people that can actually execute. And this is where the business mindset comes in, where people actually use those platforms, dark web forums, as a way to literally create a team from developers all the way to people helping with fraud and put them in action.
True, I agree. And even they'll be sending emails like phishing links. And recently, the situation that has occurred after the spoofed call, they send the email which was just created 2 days ago. So, like he was unsure, like how did they got to know that those emails are sold in the dark web, and they're using those let's say 50% of the information to get 100% of information, and they can pretend as if you are the one, and they can gain the maybe financial data or whatnot.
I even recently seen employees of a couple of telecom companies offering insider information on accounts, or offering SIM swap. So if someone has a specific target phone number for crypto, for example, use that number used for crypto wallet, there are insiders that can actually They offer their services, unfortunately, very cheap kind of price
Yeah,
tag.
even we have to identify the insider threat because I did read few like journals in which they mentioned these communities. They'll be sending emails to this insider employee and say that you have to just do one task and you'll be getting like hundreds and thousands of money within a week or within a day. And they'll be thinking that okay, like I'll be getting money if they don't have a proper knowledge, like what's the circumstances that they'll be going through, then they'll be doing it, and they'll be in trouble later on.
There's one case where RaaS crime was recruiting insiders in organization, asking for their VPN access to basically commit cyber attack, mainly ransomware, and they were promising a share of the ransom that's being paid. So again, thinking about it, there is nothing guaranteed. We're not going to pay upfront. Thinking as a more of a business deal. They're structuring it a business deal that the employee will get a share of the outcome of that ransomware.
Yeah, communities that working as an organization, like proper organizations, they have HR departments, they are call centers, they're like working like professionally, but it's not registered. And even I have seen like the ransomware service which is operated by cyber criminals, they are using to a revenue sharing model.
Exactly.
So whatever you get, like the revenue shared across, and even there are some affiliate programs as well within those communities. I was
Exactly.
surprised to see them.
And again, this is where cyber professionals need to move away from dealing with cybersecurity as an only technology problem
Mhm,
and looking at it as a business problem as well. From two sides. From the
mhm,
attacker side,
mhm,
why anyone is interested in my organization and
mhm.
what would they do? Is it the data in my organization, or is it about the links I have with other organizations like SolarWind when it comes to connection with Microsoft, different government departments, different defense contractors, and so on?
Yeah.
The other part on the C-suite side, on the management, like senior management slash the C-level, like board and so on, and the board. The question is, what do we have? What is valuable in our organization, and how can we protect it? Those questions, when you move them from a technology space into management space, they make a lot of sense, and you can relate the two sides easily.
And even like how do you think these cyber crimes and cybercrime marketplaces have evolved over the years?
So they evolved from single service model kind of forums where you had very specialized forums for very specialized tasks that you need a lot of knowledge to even understand the terminology they're using, a lot of
Mhm,
knowledge to understand where to go, first of all, and the terminology. Kind of, it used to have. Hackers used to need a high IT skill set to execute full attacks.
mhm,
Now we're in that space of multi sided platforms where you have buyers, sellers in one case, or you have buyers and employees, or you have buyers and affiliates. So you have different kind of business models that enables those attacks. The other part also, that evolution, we moved away from purely technical or cyber related tools into more cyber slash fraud. Same forum, you can see people selling credentials for running phishing tools, for phishing campaigns, for financial fraud. At the same time, the exact same tools are used for initial access for organizations to deploy ransomware. So I would say we're seeing more and more specialization, but
mhm,
being offered on common platforms. So buyers, let's put them in this terms, buyers are actually able to package different skill sets and
mhm.
execute an end-to-end kind of attack with minimal skill set on their side.
They'll be doing transactions in bitcoins or
Yes.
cryptocurrencies, not
Yes.
other medium.
So again, the same idea why they're using dark web.
Uh,
It's being anonymous, trying to move this money over and over and over between different wallets for the anonymity part. So, and this is unfortunately a side effect of the anonymity feature of Bitcoins. It's ironic that all Bitcoins, it's a public ledger, so all transactions are public, but at the
yeah.
same time, it's hidden behind the who's the owner of that wallet. So although you can see the money moving from one wallet to the other, there are some services now on dark web, simple as mixers, where people start putting all their money in one wallet and
Mhm.
then they mix it and you get shares of new Bitcoin. Do it 10 to 15, 20 times to the point that that starting Bitcoin, you cannot follow where exactly it ended.
Yeah.
Think about it as cash. Like it's almost cash without serial number. You're moving cash over and over and over and over and over. So it's a pack of $1,000 of tens,
Mhm.
and you're moving them over and over and over, adding other ten thousands of dollars and moving them and so on, all to the point that you cannot trace where
Got it.
exactly that money came from.
Yeah,
And that's a financial fraud service. You can use it for cyber attacks to pay for tools, or you can use it to clear money out of a bank account.
yeah. Even like I think whenever we send to one account, from that account there will be multiple accounts which they'll be sending to, so it's hard to retrace.
Exactly.
Right. Coming to marketplaces, even I have seen like few marketplaces like Silk Road, Alphabet, and Hansa Market. I
Mhm.
think even there will be a lot of competition between these marketplaces because when I read a story about Alphabet, people were not able to trace who is the admin of the Alphabet. But later on, there was some person named X. He has sent an email to these agents, and they started doing some background research, and that's where they got to know the admin, and that's where they stopped it. So I think there will be a lot of competitions between these like dark web markets as well. If one is down, obviously they'll be going to the other market, so they'll be having more traffic.
Exactly. However, when you think about it, just like let's go back to the regular
Mhm.
marketplaces we have. Yes, we have Amazon, we have eBay, we have maybe three, four dominant marketplaces, and then you have lots and lots and lots of other marketplaces.
Mhm.
Why is that? Because either you need time to create trust, even within criminal world. There is that concept of trust, or what we call reviews, or how many stars kind of thing. So people need time to build their kind of reputation. It's ironic when we talk about reputation within criminals, but that's the again, we're talking about a marketplace.
Yep.
So people need to build up their reputation. People need to build up trust, and this is why they stick with this. Like, try as much as possible stay within the same marketplace. Offer some service outside as well in different marketplaces. They could be local. Canada HQ was one of the notorious ones in Canada for years until
Mhm.
it got shut down. I think 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. But it was very specific because of two things. It's local, so when people are selling fraud schemes or attacks on credit cards, on banks, this advice is local. So people are actually running with local kind of advice. So you have that kind of flavor, or you have forums focused on based on language. You
Mhm.
can see Eastern European kind of marketplaces, like South Asia marketplaces, where it's mainly around the language being used. But overall, there's, I would say, the dominant, usually within each sector or each language or each geographical area, you have a dominant kind of marketplace, one or two or three at most.
To sharing that, and as you mentioned about reputation, right? One of the prominent players in this dark web or in this ransomware, I see Logbet. So they have a reputation. For example, when they hack your systems, they'll be giving a formal email where they'll be mentioning, if you use our services, we'll be giving you the
Mhm.
decryption key, as well as we'll be not attacking you further. Like, this is the first and last time that we'll attack. And I heard that, like, that's what they do. So they have that reputation where they'll not attack again if the ransom is paid.
So that was 100% true up until recently,
Oh.
where you had, so when think about when they were running actually a ransomware as a business, they needed their business to quote unquote succeed and need people to trust the business model.
Mhm.
Meaning that if you pay, most likely you're going to get your encryption keys, things are going to go back to normal, you're not going to see us again. But once things are easy to run, once it's a service, once you don't need domain knowledge
Mhm.
to start that kind of attacks, lots of other people came into that industry and they're ruining it. So they're making promises of, if you pay, we will decrypt your data. But
Mhm.
unfortunately, they used a really bad encryption tool that actually corrupted the data while it's encrypting.
Oh.
Right now, 60% of data being encrypted, actually, they use really bad encryption fast because they want to avoid detection from antivirus. So they quote unquote cut corners during the encryption phase,
Mhm.
and this ends up that even if when they give you the key, you're unable to recover up to 60% of your data. So that's one. The other part is, yes, they may not attack you, but they may sell the access someone else attack you as well. It's
Oh.
becoming over and over hard. Like, paying off ransom is moving away. Is You don't get the guarantees you used to get a couple of years ago.
Good.
That things are actually going to go back to normal, and we're gonna forget about that problem. It actually
Yeah.
opens other problems.
It's actually, I think, ways of earning money. Like, once you attack it, like, they'll be getting the ransom and they'll be promising that, okay, we'll not attack, but they'll be giving the same information to other group and they'll be attacking. In the return, they'll be getting money. So it's a
Exactly.
win-win situation for them.
Exactly.
And coming to, what are the 5 cybersecurity trends that you observe?
So I would say starting by increasing ransomware. That's one. We talked about this. The second part is third party risk. more and more we're seeing breaches happening because of third-party risk. The third one would be the use of AI. If you attended any conference in the last year and a half, it's all about AI, how we use AI, how attackers are using AI, how defenders are using AI. AI has been in the game since the 90s, especially in cyber in the first, like I would say, 2000, 2015. So what changed actually is that we have huge processing power that we never had before that enabled way more new applications and made it available again for lots of attackers that may never ever had access to this kind of sophisticated algorithms, also for defenders where they didn't have the infrastructure to run that kind of sophisticated compute. The third part would be, in my opinion, the that's use of AI. The next one would be more and more regulations are coming our way. We see it in the EU. We see more regulations coming in North America, SEC, for example, regulation for reporting, more and more strict privacy controls as well, or at least compliance requirements. We're seeing more compliance requirements for OT systems, which was one of the areas that actually has been for a long time away from regulations. So we're seeing more and more regulations coming our way when it comes to OT, critical infrastructure systems. So meaning overall, I think it will increase the attention to systematic problems within the field. The last one on the good news, we're seeing more and more adaptation of secure out-of-the-box concepts. So vendors, this has been always a debate within the IT vendor space. Should we provide tools with security options, and it's up to the client to enable those security options? For example, encryption, you provide the device as is, and if the client wants to enable encryption, they enable it. It lowers a little bit the performance, but that's up to the client. Or we provide a router with all ports open or most ports open because of service, because we want to enable kind of easy to use kind of hardware. It's up to the client to actually have the knowledge to disable the services that they don't need or the ports they don't need. That's one way of thinking. I think we moved away from that into building security within the product. So out of the box, MFA is enabled by default. Out of the box, you have encryption by default. Out of the box, you have logging. So we're seeing more and more out of the box solution security coming from vendors, not just security vendors, but other like database, infrastructure, hardware, and so on. So overall, it puts that kind of security by design for products that end users or companies don't have to spend a lot of time, a lot of energy getting the expertise to actually enable security in each and every.
But it's secure out of the box products. Nothing means like already security is inbuilt in that particular product.
Exactly, built in, enabled by default, and you have to consent to disable it if you want. So, and this is a completely different dynamic that it's up to you to enable it or not. Most people don't read the manual. Let's put it this way in a very simple terms. So I don't know about it. It's there. I don't know about it. I'm not enabling. I don't know how to enable it. Versus it's coming. It's enabled. It works. If for whatever reason you need to disable it momentarily, temporary, or permanently, you have to take that positive action to disable it.
Yeah, and like as you mentioned about AI, right? AI is being used in a lot of places, like even cyber defenders as well as threat actors. Coming to like for defense, they are using for instance response, automated response, and even like phishing detection, like email filtering. Because I think employees are the weakest chain. When 68% of breaches are because of the human error, a proper awareness need to be done. Like for these employees, right?
So AI for Defender is a very interesting topic. There has been that concept of analysts in the middle. Let the machine do what machines are really good at, which is repeating processes over and over and over. Let the human actually do what they're really good at, which is finding weird patterns, not anomalies, but actually weird patterns that needs that kind of common sense and domain knowledge and so on. So the concept of moving away from different screens that SOC analysts, for example, has to go through and figure out how is this alert related to that alert and putting this together. Let actually machines do that work for us, which is put the full picture of starting. You received an email went from this, got forwarded to that user clicked on it, tried to go to that website, and that website was malicious. When you see that kind of picture, a human being will start like, okay, we need to disable this, we need to do that action. Or actually, no, because I know this is the CIO, this was not meant for XYZ. So long story short, AI will help a lot actually has been helping a lot for the last couple of years when it comes to automation, when it comes to automating processes, when it comes to finding anomalies within processes. Also, Gen AI can help with threat intelligence, where you can summarize all your alerts into what happened yesterday, what happened in the last two weeks, what's the trend. You can ask those questions. I see a couple of products using Gen AI within marketplace analysis, seeing what's coming your way, even because someone is offering this tool. Give it a couple of days, someone will be buying it, testing it, and it's going to be used. So when you see an offering, it can create the kind of links between, oh, someone is offering this and offering that as well. Kind of put it together. By the way, you need to disable X because of this attack. Is like there is a path for an attack using those new tools. So there are lots of I would say use cases or applications for Gen AI or AI generally speaking in for defenders.
Mhm.
Also on the attacker side, we're seeing more cleaner phishing emails, more compelling emails. Or for example, in the phishing emails, when we talk about email compromise, so one tool that's used by threat actors, actually, when they take over an email, like an email account, to go and summarize actually who's important in this company. Like they
Right,
will
and
go
to
through
send it
all the
every.
emails and give the attacker kind of who should you target, who's the most important person here, who's the and try to create an email in the tone that person is using actually. So we moved away from please transfer money as soon as possible in a very with lots of grammar mistakes within that message into an email that the CEO, when he or she reads it, they will be kind of question, did I actually send this by mistake or was it the hacker kind of thing? So this is unfortunately the move we're going into as well. The other part is scripting. To launch an attack, you used to need someone helping you with development work, or either do it yourself or hire someone to do it. Seeing more and more threat actors using Gen AI for coding. So it
Yeah,
helps them write me a script that do 1, 2, 3, 4, publish this and do that. So Gen AI is helping with that.
yeah.
Part is there was a recent attack that was detected because a threat actor used one of those platforms that actually stage an attack, and the platform owner had some security measures to detect if someone trying to use my platform for writing hacking code. So and that was stopped. So it's pretty much Tom and Jerry kind of situation we're in.
Yeah, even I think back then, like when I was like ChatGPT was introduced, people were using it to write a backdoor code so that I can hack this application. And it was giving the code.
Yes,
But right now, due to different policies, regulations, it has stopped.
exactly.
And also, coming to recent reports, which shows like over one third of breaches involve the shadow data. So, what does the shadow data mean?
So shadow data is an interesting concept, especially in large organizations where you have specific systems that should be this. We call them source data systems. For example, in a bank, you usually have a master database or a master system that has all your clients' first name, last names, personal information to communicate. Sometimes, for reporting reasons, people will export this data out. Okay, either a subset or a full set. Sometimes for business intelligence use cases. Sometimes for just because I don't want to work on that system, it's slow, or people are using it, or I don't want to crash it, so they start exporting data from that system. It happens in small, medium, or large organizations. It happens in almost every organization. Difference is how far away you will take that data. You take it temporary and delete it, or you export it and create other systems, more and more BI systems, more and more unstructured systems, more and more ungoverned systems. Challenge with that is when an incident happens on an organization and the cybersecurity team starts investigating, they start going to the source system that they know the data is there, investigate what exactly happened. They may find an evidence that a problem happened on the system, and they know that we got data leaked because of XYZ, or may not, because that attack, the ransomware, or the data that got stolen from a secondary system, or what we call shadow IT, or shadow data, or shadow IT that hosts shadow data. So when you have copies of the same data across different systems, some of
Mhm.
them are governed, you know exactly what's in it, you know exactly the backup frequency and so on. Usually the team responding, you practice different tabletop exercises, how to react or how to respond to a cyber attack on those systems. You know what to do. But when you don't know where the data is or
You
how
can't
big
catch it.
this data set is, or because again, source systems have clear backup, clear archiving strategies. You only have the data for 2 years, you archive it after that, you delete it after that. But if you're copying data out of that system without any governance, you don't know how long the copy has been there. A day, 2, or 15 years. You don't know. So when you go
True.
out with a statement saying our organization was attacked and we lost the last, I don't know how many years of data, on the source system, you can say explicitly 2 years because I know I archive data after 2 years. On shadow data, shadow IT systems, ungoverned, unstructured systems, you will not be able to answer that question. And this would be one of the worst kind of situations
True,
for an
true,
organization.
true. Thanks for sharing that, Mahmoud. And also, like, what about the quantum threat? How will it impact the future?
So quantum computing, I would say it's one of the breakthroughs that we have been waiting for a long time. I
Mm-hmm.
think we're almost there. By 2029, we should be, maybe 2028, 2029, we should have a viable, stable quantum computer that's able to do all like extensive calculations much faster than the binary computers we have. But
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, because it can do all those calculations fast, they can they can decrypt messages much faster. So right now, the public key infrastructure or asymmetric keys depend on a problem called factorization, that it will take a long, long, long time to find. The private key is the key that you hold, and it's very hard to find out only by knowing the public key. Moving forward, this would be much, much simpler. We're talking about moving billions of years to find the private key into a couple of weeks to find that public key. So that means all the encryption that we talk, like we know, HTTPS based on PKI, all those encryption that needs asymmetric or based on asymmetric key encryption algorithms will be broken. Good
Mm-hmm.
news is the work on actually fixing this problem has been going on since 2016 with NIST, and last month in August, the new standard for post quantum crypto was published, and this is where all the, I would say, the movement is coming forward. New standards for deploying those certificates, new PKI stores are going to be in
Yeah,
effect in the next couple of, I would say, two
yeah.
three years max.
Soon, I think it will be implemented, and maybe we'll be securing from even quantum threat as well.
That's so. I think timing this where upgrades are being done in a structured manner. That's one. But also there is one risk that we all have been running with, which is called store now, decrypt later, where you
Mhm.
store data that's actually encrypted by current PKI and decrypted later when you have quantum computer. That's
Oh,
the risk that we have been running with. That
mhm.
risk, I would say, is only limited to nation state as well as highly, highly financed organizations that has that kind of deep pockets for to be able to run a quantum computer. At least
Thank
for now.
you. Yeah,
Maybe that will
thanks for
change
sharing.
in the future for sure.
Yeah, true, true, true. Thanks for sharing that. And also, like, for example, small to medium-sized companies that cannot afford a dedicated security teams. So, what are some of the affordable security measures or suggestions that you give to them to protect themselves from the cyber attacks?
So I think that's a very good question. I get asked like many times. One is understand your data, understand what you have, what's more
Mm-hmm.
important for you. Small or medium sized business where it's your client list, your accounting, your private data of your clients, things that can hit your reputation or can
Mm-hmm.
hit your ability to operate the system, operate your business. Understand that part. Second part is either reach out to a managed service provider, like your IT service provider, and ask what security offerings they have, or use security features built in the products that you already use. If you're on Office 365, Google Workplaces, whatever platform you're using for your day to day productivity, inquire about what kind of security offerings they have that can augment uh, your security posture. That would be the starting point. Once you
Mm-hmm.
have some sort of a cover the fundamentals, you have an antivirus, you have multi-factor authentication for all users, internal users, you have some sort of backups for your systems. You wouldn't imagine how many times I got asked by my hairdresser when attacked by ransomware back in 2017 that, and she had shut down her shop for 3 days. As
Mm-hmm.
when you think about it, it's a barber, like it's a hairdresser. Why would you need even computers? But it has all her schedule on it, all her clients. Which product are they using? It has all. It's a customer database that has. So when that customer database is unavailable, they cannot operate, and because the shop cannot operate, they are losing money on a daily basis. So even the simplest kind of attacks can impact your business, either from invoicing, ability to invoice, ability to collect invoices, ability to understand your financial cash flow. That unfortunately will be impacted. Mainly think about what's important for you. Use strong passwords, use multi-factor authentication, and reach out to your service provider, IT service provider, to inquire about either augmenting like having a managed security service provider, or adding security features to those or platforms you're already using.
Thanks for sharing that. And also, like, what is the role of Chief Information Security Officer, and what is the path to becoming CISO?
It's an interesting question. So CISOs are one of the interesting jobs where it's management, but it's not really management. It's you need the SME kind of understanding of the technology, but also you need to have the management side of understanding the organization, understanding the mission of the organization, understanding how to fit security within IT operations, how to use security as an enabler for business. It's not just a cost center. So you need CISOs are usually they come from different areas of expertise, either from technology or from security or from legal audit. You have different people, but you have to have that kind of knowledge, like cybersecurity knowledge, as well as organizational understanding of what does the organization need for now, and where the organization is going, and how we can build this kind of roadmap to being secure where we're going. There are lots of again, it depends on the size of the organization. It depends on which sector. If you're in a regulated sector, having knowledge of legal privacy. So for banks, for insurance companies, for healthcare, you need to have that deep understanding of the regulations you're working in. More on the product companies, you need to have deep understanding or good understanding of the product itself that you're working with, and what kind of security features within the product.
Yeah, and like, is there any certifications that help us reach that stage?
So I would say yes, it's a mix of certification and experience. So something like CISP, something like certified CISO certification, attending conferences, having a network of peers within the industry that gives you not just what everyone is doing, but what's happening. Because again, we're talking about information, confidential information that companies don't usually share. So when you have a trusted network of peers, you can exchange information like this happened on our side, are you seeing something like this on your side? Or even on product purchase, we're thinking about moving from platform X for antivirus or XDR to platform Y. What's your experience? And you get, most of the time, you get really, really honest feedback. You get that kind of, we tried this and we failed, it's really bad. Or that company's marketing is wonderful, but the product doesn't work. Or you get, you know what? A couple of times I get that nudge. By the way, we use this tool. It's free and it's awesome. So take a look. Or we met with these guys. If we had the budget, we'll hire them immediately, but we don't have it. But I'm recommending them to you so you can take a look. So building that kind of network of peers that will give you an understanding of what's the threat landscape before things are actually in the news, as well as understand the product kind of market. Usually get questions about when something hits the news, like, oh, are you aware of this? Yes, we talked about it. Like yesterday, we talked about that company or that CISO or that. So you get some sort of comprehensive understanding of the threat landscape you're in.
Thanks for sharing that, Mahmoud. So we are in the end of the podcast. So finally, do you have any advice or life lessons that you like to share with our audience?
It's an interesting one. Just enjoy what you're doing. Like really enjoy what you're doing. Security is tough, and you need to enjoy every moment. Take care of yourself, because burnout is a problem within this field. Just enjoy what you're doing and do it with a passion. Sorry.
Thank you so much, Mahmoud, for sharing your time and insights with us. And this is the end of the podcast. And a big thank you to our audience for tuning in. If you have enjoyed the podcast, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like the video, and share it with your friends. Your support helps us to continue bringing great content. Until next time, take care and stay tuned for more. Thank you.